Of all the real estate markets in South Florida right now, Broward's single-family home market is the one that looks the most normal on the surface, and that's exactly why we need to talk about Broward in this video today, because Broward normal in 2026 has a very different meaning than it did 2 years ago. And buried in this latest market data are a few signals that every buyer, seller, and investor in this county needs to see right now. What's up, everybody? Jake Fletcher here, Broward and Miami real estate advisor and team lead at the Fletcher Group with eXp Realty. And every single month I pull the freshest, finest data from the MLS, no spin, no fluff, and I break it down so that you know exactly what's happening in the South Florida real estate market before you make any moves. And today we're getting into the February 2026 data for Broward County single-family homes. And Broward is a fascinating market right now because unlike Broward's condos, which are in deep buyer's market territory, Broward single-family homes are sitting right at the edge between a balanced and a buyer's leaning market. So, you know, it's the most nuanced story in South Florida right now. It's super interesting, and I'm gonna break it down, break down every metric for you here in this video so that you can understand exactly where the risk and the opportunity live. The link to book a one-on-one strategy session with me is in the description down below, as well as all my contact info. So let's go ahead and get into the numbers, and let's start with demand, all right? Sales volume and the closed price to original price ratio are the first graph we're going to take a look at here. 801 single-family homes closed in Broward in February. That is down 6.1% from 853 closings in February of last year. Now, before we put too much weight on 1 month, context matters, okay? February is historically one of the slower months for closings, and 801 is not a collapse in demand, it's a softening. But combined with the trend we've been watching for the past 18 months, it confirms that Broward buyers are being deliberate. They're being patient and selective. They're not rushing, and they're really just waiting for the right property at the right price. So let's talk next about the closed price to original price ratio. And this is the chart I really want to look at here because the long view tells the whole story. February 2026 came in at 94.4% list price to closed price ratio. That's down from 94.5% in January, basically flat month over month. But let's look at the trajectory since the peak. In May of 2022, sellers in Broward were getting over 101 cents on every dollar that they asked for. 101%, okay? People were waiving inspections, going over asking, writing love letters, offering to name their first child after the sellers. Today, 94.4%. That is a 6.6% compression in seller power over 4 years, and the chart doesn't show a clean straight line down. It shows a series of bounces and lower highs after each recovery. That's what a slow-moving structural shift looks like. Every time seller confidence builds back up, it stalls at a lower ceiling than before, and that compression is the whole story of this market right now. Supply is up next, and here's what makes Broward so different from the rest of South Florida. Active listings came in at 5,874 in February. That's up just 14 units from 5,860 in January, essentially flat month over month, but year over year, we are down 10.3% from 6,549 active listings in February, okay? 10.3% reduction in active listings year over year. So that's a meaningful reduction in supply. And look at the trend on this chart. Broward inventory peaked somewhere around May through July of last year in that 7,000 to 7,167 range, and it's been declining ever since, okay? 7 months of consecutive or near consecutive inventory reduction is what you're looking at there, guys. And that's not an accident. That is the market adjusting, all right? Let's talk about months of inventory next. February came in at 7 months of inventory, okay? Last February was 8 months, and here's the trajectory I want you to understand, okay? We started 2025 at 8 months of inventory, firmly in buyer's market territory. By the end of 2025 through December, we had compressed all the way down to 5 months. 5 months is considered a fairly balanced market, and then January 2026 we bounced back to 8 months, and February came in at 7. So what does this mean? The whipsaw from 5 months in December to 8 months in January is partly seasonal. January always has softer demand, but it's also a reminder that this market has not locked in any direction yet. 3 to 6 months of inventory is considered a normal to balanced market, so 7 months is just barely into buyer market territory. If spring demand kicks in the way that it historically does, we could see months of inventory compress back down towards 6 or even 5 months of inventory, and that's a signal that Broward is tightening back up. That's when pricing power starts to return to sellers, and that's also when the window for buyers starts to narrow. Right now, we're in a buyer's market, okay? Definitely no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but we are one bad month away from tipping back the other way. So keep watching this number, and we're gonna have that data right here on this channel. So if you appreciate that, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Now let's look at the churn rate, the flow of new listings hitting the market versus expired listings that are going off the market without finding a buyer. New listings came in at 1,682 in February. That's down 15.4% from 1,988 new listings in February of last year. 15% fewer sellers decided to bring their Broward homes to the market in February versus last February, and this isn't a 1 month blip, all right? If you look at the trend over the past year, new listings have been quietly declining. So what does that tell us? Some sellers are watching the days on market numbers, 104 days on market right now, and deciding that the juice just isn't really worth the squeeze. Some of them are locked into low rate mortgages and simply can't afford to move. And then some are waiting for the market to improve before they list. The net result is that supply is being held back, not just by demand weakness, but by seller hesitation. So the result of that is that it actually supports price stability because it limits how much new competition hits the market each month. All right. Now, expireds came in at 1,467 in February, down a little bit, 3.7% from 1,524 last February. The slight good news is that expireds are lower year over year. The less good news is that if you zoom out on this chart, expired listings have been on the slow upward drift over the past 2 years. In early 2024, expireds were regularly in the 1,300 to 1,500 range. Now they're consistently sitting at 1,467 to 1,850 depending on the month. That creeping increase in expireds tells you one thing above all else. Buyers in Broward have become very resistant to overpriced properties. If you list at a number the market doesn't support, the market simply ignores you until your listing expires. Price it right from day one or plan to sit. All right, that's the moral of the story here. Days on market and median price, our last graph of the day here for single family homes. Days on market, as I mentioned earlier, came in at 104 days in February, up from 97 in January, and going in the wrong direction for sellers, up significantly from 85 days in February of last year. That's a 22% increase in how long it's taking to sell a Broward home year over year. Now, to put 104 days in perspective, during the peak of the frenzy in 2021 and 2022, homes in Broward were selling in under 30 days, sometimes under 27, and we're nearly at 4 times that pace now. So buyers have time, and they know it. I'll be watching March closely because if days on market pushes above that sort of 110 threshold, that would be a strong signal that the market is genuinely losing momentum, heading into what should theoretically be the strongest buying season of the year, which is the spring into the summer, okay? Now, median price, last but not least, this is where I want to give you the honest read, not the spin. Broward's median single-family home price in February came in at $622,250, down very slightly from $625,000 in January, and year over year, we're up $22,250, a 3.7% gain from $600,000 last February. On the surface, prices are holding. That 3.7% year-over-year gain looks solid, but look at this chart more carefully, and the median has been bouncing in this band between roughly $596,000 and $635,000 for the past 18 months. And we hit 635,000 back in June of 2024. That's the recent ceiling, and we can't seem to push meaningfully past it. Prices aren't declining, but they're not growing either. They're flat. And flat prices in a market with rising days on market, declining seller concession ratios, and elevated inventory, that's a fragile kind of stability. So here's the one thing that keeps me up at night about this market. Right now, Broward is balanced, and that balance is actually somewhat reassuring. But balance assumes the external environment stays roughly the same, and that's a big assumption in 2026. Think about it. If we see a meaningful wave of job layoffs in South Florida, whether from federal workforce reductions or a broader economic slowdown, some of those homeowners who've been holding on to list are gonna need to sell, and that puts inventory back up. Or if something spooks the bond market, a prolonged war in the Middle East, which honestly at this point is looking more and more likely, that spikes oil prices, feeds inflation, and forces rates back up in an already higher rate environment than what most sellers bought into, that takes buyers out of the market much faster than any data point that I can show you. I'm not predicting that any of these things are gonna happen. I'm just saying that they're real scenarios. And in a market where prices are this flat and demand is this measured, the downside scenarios carry more weight than they would in a ripping bull market. This is not the time for sellers to get greedy. And for buyers, the window may be more valuable than it looks. So here's the Broward single family market in one honest summary. Number one, demand is soft but stable. 801 closings, down from 6.1% year over year. The close price ratio at 94.4% is holding, but the 4-year trend from 101% tells you seller leverage is a long, slow decline. Buyers are active, but they're patient. They're not in a hurry. Number two, supply is improving, and that's actually tightening the market. 5,874 active listings is down 10.3% from a year ago, and 7 months of inventory is almost normal buyer market, almost normal territory, but it is a buyer's market. But normal doesn't mean buyers have lost their edge. It means the window between buyer's market and balanced market is closing, and you should be paying attention to that direction. Number three, prices are flat and fragile. $622,250 median sale price is up 3.7% year over year, but it's been stuck in a band for 18 months. And the external risks, rate volatility, potential layoffs, geopolitical pressure, means that the floor under these prices is softer than the headline number suggests. My take on Broward right now is that this is the most interesting window in the South Florida single family home market. Not the most dramatic, that's definitely Miami-Dade condos. Not the most distressed, again, that's Miami-Dade condos, but Broward is the market where smart, prepared buyers have legitimate room to negotiate without feeling like they're gambling. The inventory is coming down, the spring selling season is here. If months of inventory compresses by, below 6 or by April or May, then the leverage buyers have right now will start to erode. Now, if you want to talk through what this market means for you or your specific situation, what to offer, what to list at, or whether Broward even makes sense for your goals, use the link in the description down below to book a call with me. I answer every message and I work with every client personally. If this breakdown helped you to understand the market better, drop a comment, share it with somebody who needs to hear it, and definitely make sure to help me out, help me grow the channel. We're working to get to 2,000 subscribers. You could help us get one more subscriber closer to that, and I would appreciate that. And hope that this video helped you, because in a market that's moving this fast, being prepared definitely beats perfect every single time. Jake Fletcher here with the Fletcher Group at eXp Realty, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.